All right, picking it up with part two. We just grabbed the average and the total out of the output section. I noticed when the first video was rendering that we needed to declare the average calculation, and notice no camel case needed there for those one word things. So it's all good. What else? Well, the other thing that I want to mention about the looks, and I never mentioned this, is this idea of white space. So I'm going to put appropriate white space. Now, what I mean by that is by blank lines. Sometimes extra blank lines can make your code readable. So, for instance, in between sections, you see how they have these blank lines. It's nice to see how it breaks up the white space. But if I were to take all this white space out and it's just lines and lines of code, it's kind of hard to read. And even in the input section, I might want to split this up so I can see the sort of the pairs of comments, the prompt and the reading, prompt and reading, prompt and reading, and even from there, I can tell that my output's going to be a bit of a mess here. So let's run this, and I'll critique the output. So right there, that's a pretty good prompt. Tell me how much you spent for lunch on Monday, and now the program's sitting there waiting for the user to put something in that kind of makes sense. Now, blank line, that's nice, but notice how it's not consistent. This still is pretty clear about what to do. But notice that it wasn't the same as the one before, so we're going to want to make that the same. And now notice there's a big space in there. This looks terrible. This doesn't look any good, even though it's completely functional. The program works fine. And then again, this one's not very friendly. And now this one's even worse, the one for Friday, because there's no prompt at all. The cursor sitting there blinking, and the user won't know, whoever's running your program won't know what to do. So probably put in something for that, and then how much is this looks better, but it's different from the first two. So we need to make this the program look similar. And then notice that the output, this output looks pretty good. This output looks like garbage, right? So it should be dollars and cents. So as far as the output, we've got a few things to critique here. So I'm going to go back to my note here. Oops. Underline that, make that look nice. Usually, you should have some sort of title on your program as well. That's most programs should start with some sort of title, and I'll show you what I mean there. So, for instance, right at the beginning, the input section, you might have c.println. This is the Restall lunch program, or whatever title you want. Maybe even underline it a little bit, so that when it prints out, it'll look like it's got a title. And then we want, this is in point form now, I guess, friendly, consistent, clear prompts. What I mean by a prompt is so the user knows what to do. Okay, and so let's tidy these up, and it doesn't have to be centered or anything like this, but let's tidy these up so they're all the same. This one started a new line. Do we want a new line? Sure. Notice this one's a print and this one's a print line. Let's just make them all the same. Okay? We could have a blank line in between if we wanted to, but that doesn't matter. We just want to make them all the same. Take that tab out maybe, and once we get into the habit of this, we can copy and paste code and reuse it so everything's consistent. Edit, undo. Control C, not just C. And then I'm going to paste that in there, delete the Wednesday, paste that in there, and make sure the prompts make sense. Thursday, Friday, and I have to adjust my code so it matches what I'm doing. Then I can take, that was that one that didn't have any prompt, remember? The Saturday one was okay, but we got to take out the tab. There, does that look consistent? Yep, looks pretty good. One thing that you might want to do while it's processing before the output section is to clear the screen. And that's up to you. You might want to have the user have all their input in one screen and the output on the same screen. But we do want some amount of control over the output. Remember, the output didn't look very nice. How we sort of fix this, remember, is by giving the output a certain number of characters to be in, and this you could play with, and then the second digit is the number of decimal places. And in fact, a way to control this is by having them in pieces with the right number of spaces for the answer, and then the number of decimal places. We might want a new line in between there. And what's neat about programming is it doesn't have to be right the first time. If it doesn't look good after you do it the first time, you try it again. Notice that we should be saving our code fairly often. Save, because maybe we made an error and it'll crash the program. Run that again. How much did you spend for lunch on Monday? 23, 55, and it doesn't matter what you put in. 88. So we spent a total of 300 and an average of 50. See, I'm wondering if that's rounding. Maybe it did. I put in that exact amount, but I'm going to run it again with little amounts and see if I get some decimals. And this is the idea of testing your code to see if it works. User testing, right? You do the testing. Spent a total of that and an average of that. Oh, good. Well, there's a little space in there, and you could mess around with how to fix that, but that doesn't look too bad. That's pretty good for the stupid little lunch program. The other points I want to put here is that the output, and this is back to our note, the output should be formatted nicely, and that's, I mean, the decimals, right? The other thing, we could clear the screen at appropriate times. And that's it.